children, today I'm going to show you how we can do a science experiment. And because we've been learning about superheroes, it's going to be about superheroes. What I've done is had a search around my house for old pieces of materials or fabrics. So I want you to do the same, but you don't have to find the same kinds of materials. It can be any old pieces of materials. So ask a grown-up which pieces of materials you're allowed to have, because you'll need to cut them up into little squares and you're going to wear them out really, so make sure it's something old. So I had a look around my house and I found this old piece of material. It was part of an old sheet. So it's what we call cotton. It's that sort of fabric. So I found a piece of cotton. Then I found this old bit of fur that came from an old sock. So I've cut a piece of that off because it's old now and we don't need it anymore. So some fur. And then I found an old duster. So it's sort of a bit of toweling material. And I've cut that off. So 3 different kinds of materials. And what I want us to do is do an experiment to find out which of these 3 materials would be best for a superhero's cape. Now, as you know, superheroes are very busy. They're on missions every day and they do a lot of running and sorting out villains and saving people. So their cape has to be very strong material and very hard wearing because, you know, they don't want it ripping easily and wearing out. So we're going to test which of these 3 materials would be the best, which would stand up to the test and be the most strong and hard wearing. Now, how are we going to find out how strong they are? Here's a clue. Do you know what this is? You might have some of this in your garage or your shed. It's called sandpaper. And sandpaper is very rough on this side. If you feel it with your fingers, you can feel the tiny pieces of sand that are stuck to it. It's very rough and we use it for things like getting rid of bumps on walls. So it wears things out very quickly. So we're going to use this sandpaper to test the materials. So I'm going to fold it in half and I'm going to test my first piece of material. What I've got to make sure is that I do the same number of rubs with the sandpaper on each material, because it wouldn't really be a fair test, would it, if I only rubbed one material a couple of times and another piece of material lots of times. So I've got to make sure I do the same so that it tells me properly which material is the strongest. Now, because I'm being a scientist, I'm going to do something special before I try out the materials. I'm going to do a prediction. Do you remember that word from our English lessons on Florence Nightingale? Well, scientists do a lot of predictions or guessing. So I'm going to try and guess which material is going to be the strongest. So I'm going to have a good look. I'm going to use my sensors to feel the material, feel how strong it is. I'm also going to hold it up to this light here to see how thick the material is. I can see the light through that a bit, but there aren't many holes in it, so I think that one might be quite strong. Now I'm going to feel the toweling material. That feels quite thick and soft. And if I hold it up to the light, there are quite a lot of holes in that material. So I'm wondering if that one will wear out easily. Now the furry material. It's very soft, but it feels quite a bit thicker than this one. And if I hold it up to the light, I can see quite a few holes in it. So I'm going to predict that this one, the cotton one, is going to be the strongest. Who knows whether I'll be right or not? Shall we have a go and try it out now? So I'm going to start with the furry material, I think. So I'm going to give it 10 rubs. I'm going to hold one end of the material so it doesn't keep moving around as I'm rubbing. And I've folded my sandpaper in half so it's easier to hold. And I'm going to start now. 1, 2, 3. I'm pressing on as hard as I can. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, look, on the sandpaper, quite a lot of the fluff from the fur has come off, so it has worn it out quite a bit. But let's look at the actual material. It still looks more or less the same. And if I hold it up to the light, there's no more holes in it. So that one has stood up to the test quite well. That one's quite strong. So keep remembering about how much material came off onto the sandpaper. Now let's try the blue toweling material. So I'm going to use a different side, a different corner of the sandpaper, because that will have worn out a little bit now. And let's do the same 10 rubs on this one. 1, oh, that's a bit hard to do. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, getting a bit easier now. 7, 8, 9, 10. Whew. Now then, if we look carefully at the sandpaper, quite a bit of the material has rubbed off onto the sandpaper. And then if we look at the material, it still looks more or less the same as it did before. It's maybe a little bit smoother now, a little bit worn out, but there aren't really any holes in it. So let me compare it to the fur. I think the fur looks more how it did when it started. This one's a little bit shinier and smoother. So between those two, and looking at what rubbed off, I would say so far the fur might be the winner out of those two. That one just stayed a little bit stronger than this one. Now let's finish off with the white cotton. That was the one I predicted would be best. I'm going to turn the sandpaper over so I use a bit that I've not used before. And let's give the cotton 10 rubs. Are we ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, this is hard. 7, 8, 9, 10. Oh, if we have a good look at that, look, quite a bit of the cotton has stuck to the sandpaper. But if we hold this up now for you to see, uh-oh, this one has actually gone into holes. I don't know if you can see any better when I hold it up to the lamp. There's actual holes, it's torn. So that one definitely wouldn't be good for the superhero cape. I predicted it wrong, totally wrong, Mrs. Key. That one was the worst one. So it's out of these two. And as I said before, I think only just this one is the winner because it really doesn't look any different after having rubbed it 10 times. This one is pretty good, but it's worn a little bit smooth and there was a little bit more of it rubbed off onto the sandpaper than there was for the fur. So, for this experiment, I think the furry cape would be the winner. The superhero would get a furry cape. And actually that's quite good because not only would it be hard wearing and strong, but it would keep them quite warm and cosy too. So it's your turn now to go and have a hunt for 3 different kinds of materials. Let me know how you got on, which one you predicted would be the strongest and which one actually turned out to be the strongest. I'd love to find out. And if you enjoy being a scientist and doing experiments, one of the other little tests that you can do on materials is to find out how waterproof they are. Because, of course, when it's raining, the superhero doesn't want to get wet through. So that could be your second experiment, a completely separate one, where you test materials by dripping water onto them to see how much water soaks through and find out which material would be the most waterproof. Bye for now.